Hey there, everyone. Welcome. Tonight we're going to be talking about animal protection policy at Vermont Law and Graduate School. Thank you for joining us tonight. As everybody's filing into the session, feel free to enter in the chat where you're joining us from. I'm glad you can be here. Let's see, I'll start us off. Joining from Tunbridge, Vermont. Long Beach, California. Nice. Welcome. Billy. East Amherst, New York. Welcome. Seeing some familiar faces. Well, some familiar names. Grand Forks, North Dakota. Some originally from San Francisco attendees. Welcome. And from Ghana. Welcome. Amazing. So, so we'll get started with tonight's topic, which is animal protection policy. And we bring an amazing array of variety of courses and centers and opportunities. And I have some amazing colleagues joining me here tonight to showcase those. And we even have a current student who can share her perspective as well. So thank you for everyone who's joining me tonight. I'll start off with a quick introduction. My name's Lauren Badams. I'm an online admissions counselor. Also work with residential students as well. So happy to answer any admissions questions. We can always connect outside of the topic tonight if you have any questions. And yeah, just a little bit about Vermont Law and Graduate School. We're a small independent law and graduate school. We are located in South Royalton, Vermont, this beautiful environment with the Green Mountains all around us. So we've got Dan Bromberg, our Dean of the Graduate School, Delciana Winders, and Sophia, our current student, and then also my colleague, Veronica Schlurf, also from the admissions department. So Delcy, I will hand it over to you to get us started. And thanks again.
Right. Thank you so much, Lauren. So what I want to do is I'm going to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about the Animal Law and Policy Institute at Vermont Law and Graduate School. And I'll tell you a little bit about my history and why it brought me to creating the Animal Protection Policy program. And I'll give a brief overview of the program, and then I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Dean Bromberg, to share some exciting breaking updates to the degree program. And then I will go into a bit more detail about the program and what careers you might pursue after completing it. And then you will hear from Sophia, who is currently in the program. And then, of course, we will leave time to answer your questions. So the Animal Law and Policy Institute at Vermont Law and Graduate School has a mission of training future animal advocacy leaders through education, scholarship, policy development, and advocacy. I joined the Vermont Law and Graduate School faculty 2.5 years ago, specifically to create the Animal Law and Policy Institute. And I teach a range of classes at the school, including animals in the law, animal protection policy, communications, advocacy, and leadership, legislation and regulation, and more. I won't list all of them. And the focus of the Institute is to support aspiring advocates through rigorous coursework, supportive mentorships, and real-world trainings. We also collaborate closely with the school's other leading programs, including the Food and Ag program, environmental justice, environmental law and policy, and restorative justice, because one of our emphases is recognizing the interconnections between animals, humans, and the environment. So, like I said, I joined the faculty 2.5 years ago to create the Institute. I had already been teaching in Vermont Law Graduate School's summer program for several years, so I already had a sense of what a special institution this was. But before coming here, I was on the faculty at Lewis and Clark Law School, where I established and directed the Animal Law Litigation Clinic. And I've taught animal law courses at various other law schools as well, including PACE, and I won't name all of them. I've also done some less formal teaching, including to Joaquin Phoenix and Rooney Mara. And I was the first fellow in Harvard's Animal Law and Policy program. My animal law and policy scholarship has been published in top ranked journals, but much more important to me, it has influenced and continues to influence policy change. And I have written about and taught about the role of policy in animal advocacy for many years, but I've been engaged in that advocacy for even longer. So I became an animal advocate at age 14. I'll let you try and guess how long ago that was. And I went to graduate school 2 decades ago, specifically with an aim to gain practical skills to become a better advocate. After undergrad, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to advocate for animals. And I ultimately decided to go to law school largely because there weren't a lot of other options, which is part of why I created the Animal Protection Policy Master's Program, which I'll get to. But for more than 15 years, I've practiced animal law in a variety of settings. I practiced at a public interest firm where I worked on a wide range of matters, working to challenge elephant abuse by Ringling Brothers and other circus exhibitors, forcing the federal government to be transparent about its regulation and failure to regulate animal experimentation, working to hold the New Jersey Department of Agriculture responsible for a legislative mandate to provide humane standards for farmed animals, addressing abuse and neglect by puppy mills, challenging plans to site industrial wind turbines in known migratory bird and endangered bat flyways, and more. And then from there, I went to Farm Sanctuary, a leading farmed animal advocacy organization, where I was their first director of legal campaigns. And I spearheaded the organization's work on ballot initiatives to end cruel confinement systems, like the law that the US Supreme Court upheld just last year, and also advocacy on behalf of downed animals, those who are too sick or injured to stand or walk at slaughter. And then I went to the PETA Foundation, where I created and directed the Captive Animal Law Enforcement Division, where a team of lawyers, veterinarians, scientists, and policy wonks rehomed well over 100 animals from substandard conditions to reputable sanctuaries, including dozens of big cats held by the bad guys featured in Netflix's Tiger Kings, solitary chimpanzees who had been discarded by Hollywood, bears from concrete pits, and a very special elephant named Nosy, who I got to personally escort to sanctuary. And importantly, we didn't just help turn these individual animals' lives around, but we shut down these facilities. We held the government accountable for failing to protect these animals, and we established laws, policies, and precedents to make standard but cruel practices illegal. Things like cub petting, premature separation, declawing, elephant rides, traveling wild animal exhibits, and so on. So I got to work on all of these things, which I'm so grateful for, but all of the victories were always the work of a lot of teamwork, the result of a lot of teamwork. And I have learned over the years how much more we can accomplish together and how much more work there is still to be done. And so I found myself more and more wanting to lift up the next generation of animal advocacy leaders. And it's something I've always done to a degree, but now I've made it my priority, which does not mean I've stopped doing the advocacy work. I do continue to do it, but I'm doing it now alongside and hand in hand with students, training them as I go. And so that is the main reason that I created the Animal Protection Policy degree program. And because so much of the work that I've done over the last 15 plus years and the work that those I've collaborated with have done does not require a law degree. It might require some knowledge of the law, but what it really requires is knowledge of strategy, policy, and advocacy skills. So you don't need a law degree to lobby for new laws or improved laws. You don't need a law degree to draft legislation, to get administrative agencies to change regulations, to engage in corporate campaigns, to get practices changed, to get more transparency of animal exploiting industries and the government agencies that are supposed to oversee them, and so on. And law school doesn't really train you to do any of those things. You need a law degree to litigate and to give legal advice, but that's really about it. So for many years, I wanted to create a degree program that trains animal advocacy future leaders to be strategic and effective, that is distinct from a law degree. That isn't just letting folks sit in on classes that were created for law students, but rather was carefully tailored specifically to train policy master students. And I wanted to create a training ground for people wanting to do policy work on behalf of animals. And that includes animals in the wild, in laboratories, in the pet trade, used for food, used for entertainment, and so on. And I wanted to do it in a way that was collaborative and synergistic with other advocacy movements, which is one of the reasons that Vermont Law and Graduate School and the Vermont School for the Environment is truly the perfect place to be doing that. Vermont Law and Graduate School is a leading environmental school, and that is part of the central identity of the school. So we're not just a school with a good environmental program, we are an environmental school. And animal protection has been recognized as part of that identity for decades. We were one of the first schools in the world to offer an animal law course, and we've gradually grown our animal law and policy offerings over the years. We're now one of the the fastest growing animal law and policy program in the world. So top of my agenda when I joined the faculty was to create this program, and I'm thrilled that it was fully embraced by the school as part of its strategic plan, and I'm excited that you are interested in it and here learning more about it this evening. So I am going to pause here and hand it over to Dean Bromberg to let you hear about some exciting updates.
Thanks so much, Delcy. And Lauren, could you flip back just one slide? Or whoever is flipping us, thank you. So awesome. So my name is Dan Bromberg. I'm the Dean of the Graduate School. I'm thrilled to be here with all of you. Everything that Delcy just discussed as related to animal protection policy is, one of these assets that we have at Vermont Law and Graduate School that is central to not only our mission, but our values and how we go about building our curriculum and our programs. And one of the major things that's happening now is that we're shifting some of our degree programs into a Master's of Public Policy program rather than just standalone degrees. But we're doing that with a pretty clear eye on making sure that our students get exactly what they need from that substantive field that they are still interested in. And the reason we're really doing that is really a few things. So first, an MPP, for those of you that don't know, is an interdisciplinary degree, right? So the idea here is that you're going to walk out with tools to understand and solve complex issues related to public policy, which you were already getting in our other degrees. We're also going to leverage our expertise across a number of different areas. So while some of you are interested in the animal protection policy side of our shop, we also have a clean energy. We have food and agriculture law and policy. We have justice reform. And as Delcy pointed out, a lot of these cross over, right? And there's a lot of interest to take courses across those tracks. And this degree program will allow you to do that. Third, we really want to focus on what Delcy was talking about related to strategic communication, advocacy, and lobbying. And this program really allows us to do that as well. To give you guys the skills that you need to go out and be change makers in the policy world. And you don't necessarily need those courses that are part of a JD. And then lastly, we're really thinking about an eye toward the job market for all of you. and what degrees translate well to the need for various employers as we're looking at the future. And often what we hear from our alum is when they describe their degree, they often describe it as a master's in public policy with a specialization. And we hear that with our environmental degrees regularly. So the goal here is to give you the credential that will be most effective when you're pursuing that career without changing the substance to any of our degrees. So you're still getting exactly what you need to get in your specialty. So I could take this next slide and then I'll pass it back over to Delphi. So just so you have a sense, what you're looking at are basically the 2 degrees. So the Masters of Animal Protection Policy on the left, and then the MPP on your right. At least that's how it appears on my screen. Who knows with mirroring and Zoom if that changes for you. But essentially, you're getting the exact same degree, and then we add 3 new courses: lobbying and government affairs, communication, advocacy, and leadership, and an introduction to public policy. So from a substantive perspective, you're going to end up with the exact same degree with a slightly different title. And then, of course, you're going to get all of those courses related to animal protection policy alongside these more general policy and career building skills that we're going to be providing you. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Delphi, and happy to stick around for a little bit if there are any questions that pop up.
Thank you, Dan. So you all are the first to hear about this exciting change. So there are, of course, as Dan said, still the core courses in animal protection policy specifically. So I'm going to jump into some more details about that. So first, as background, this is really a unique program, and it's focused on providing real-world opportunities. And as I said before, we've created specially tailored classes specifically for this program rather than throwing you into law classes. So we're focused on conveying knowledge and skills to help you become a strategic, effective animal advocate, regardless of what issue you want to work on and regardless of where you want to do that work. And one of the changes that comes along with the MPP shift that I'm excited about, and I think you might be too, is that we've opened up the number of the animal protection electives that you can take. So there are 2 required animal protection specific classes, the bolded ones on the slide: animal protection policy, which is a practical class focused on the skills needed to strategically and effectively advance animal protection on the local, state, federal, and international levels. And then science of animal law and policy, which is co-taught with a neuroscientist and was created out of recognition that scientific literacy is really a cornerstone of advancing successful policy efforts on behalf of animals. And so that will cover scientific concepts, vocabulary, thinking, culture, and talk about how to use this information in your advocacy efforts. And then for the rest of your animal protection specific courses, you get to pick from this wide range of courses. We have some of them listed on the screen, but this isn't even a comprehensive list. And so you can pick courses that are tailored to your interest, whether it's a particular form of advocacy or a particular type of animal or area of animal use: marine animals, terrestrial wildlife, farmed animals, companion animals, captive wildlife, and so on. Another strength of the program is its experiential component. So you will do 5 credits of experiential work, which is hands-on real-world experience under the close supervision of mentors. One way to do this is through our Farmed Animal Advocacy Clinic, which is the only one of its kind in the world. And there you take the lead on policy work for clients like Mercy for Animals, Animal Outlook, Animal Partisan. And so you interact directly with those clients, which can be helpful for job opportunities. And some of the recent policy projects that clinic students have worked on include drafting part of the Industrial Agriculture Accountability Act, a bill introduced by Senator Cory Booker to tackle some of the most egregious issues in industrial animal agriculture. working with public interest groups to comment on the Environmental Protection Agency's reconsideration of its Clean Air Act rule that exempts animal agriculture, working with community members and public interest groups to oppose expansion of a Delaware factory farm gas facility that would allow the processing of 250,000 tons of poultry waste every year in an environmental justice community. That's just a few examples. And then you can also do an externship, which we will work closely with you on to help place you with an organization focused on an issue of your choosing. We have an incredible alumni network. We have alumni at all of the major animal protection organizations, including the ASPCA, PETA, the Humane Society of the United States, Humane Society Legislative Fund, Friends of Animals, Animal Legal Defense Fund, Center for Biological Diversity, etc., and also many smaller organizations. We also have alumni who are running their own animal protection groups. So that's a really, really valuable thing to you as students. One of my favorite things to do is to send current students to work with former students. So let's talk about careers. What can you do with this degree once you're done? A lot. It's a very rapidly growing field, and your work in the program is going to help you hone in on where you want to focus by trying different things, possibly through externships with different organizations or different projects in the clinic, and of course through our mentoring. And it's not just me in the program. We have lots of other professors teaching in the program who each bring different animal protection policy expertise, experience, and connections. So we will work with you to identify opportunities that are in your area of interest, to make introductions, to help you with networking. And just one example, at the end of this week, we're taking 6 students to an Animal Protection Student Summit at NYU. We also had a student present recently at a George Washington University scholarship workshop. And one of our master's students presented at the National Animal Law Conference last year that's put on by the Center for Animal Law and the Animal Legal Defense Fund. Of course, we will write letters of recommendation and really do whatever it takes. I very often am proactively reaching out to people I know when a student is applying for a job, and they have told me that they have pulled those students' applications out of the pile because of my call. So we're a student-centered program. Students come first all of the time. And this will bring you to the top of the application pile when you're applying for jobs. So on the slide on the left is some examples of the wide array of jobs that you might pursue after getting this degree in government, in the nonprofit sector, in the private sector. And we do maintain a list of active job postings in this space, and we update it every month. So that's a really useful resource. On the right side are specific jobs that are held by Vermont Law Graduate School Policy Masters alums. So I'll just highlight a few. An advisor to the Deputy Secretary of the Department of the Interior, Communications Associate with the International Rhino Foundation, Engagement Officer with Mercy for Animals, Legislative Specialist with the Humane Society Legislative Fund, Ocean Rights Manager at the Earth Law Center, which is doing some really interesting rights of nature work, and a Policy Fellow at the Humane Society of the United States. So with that, I will hand it off to Sophia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sophia. I am a current Masters of Animal Policy and Protection student, soon to be Masters of Public Policy student with an animal concentration. I am very excited to be here. A little bit about my trajectory. I graduated college in 2022 with a degree in philosophy. I specialized in animal ethics. And then I had a fellowship with the Humane League, a leading farm to animal protection organization. And then I made my way here. And I have loved my time here. Professor Winders is not all talk. She everything she said is true, and I've experienced it firsthand. I'm in terms of animal classes, I've taken animal ethics, animal law of animals in agriculture, and animal policy and protection. And I'm also in the farmed animal advocacy clinic. So I have had every opportunity to take advantage of all of the wonderful animal-centered classes that we offer. But also, part of the great thing about being a master's student in this program is I have taken classes with tons of other master's students that are interested in different things than I am. So I've, taken classes and become friends with people in the Center for Food and Agriculture, in the climate program and the energy program. And to get those people's perspective and to be surrounded by them kind of takes you out of the, you get the best of both worlds because you can really hone in on animal issues, and then you can also really think about it from these other perspectives. Like when you're talking to food and ag people, food and agriculture people, they can talk to you about the experiences that they've had talking with farmers in Vermont, or talking about the food policy that they've encountered. And so that really informs how you learn and think about animal protection issues. And I think that experience is invaluable. I have also taken advantage of the connections that Professor Winders was talking about. I am currently working with a former law student from VLGS who has their own litigation organization. And I got that within the first week of coming to the school. I sat down with Professor Winders. I was like, what can I do? And she gave me a list, and I did it because that's just the kind of community that we've built here, where people are really excited to help and excited that you're excited about animals. And I'm really proud to be at an institution that I feel like is at the cutting edge of this issue. I think that this is going to be people are just going to think about this more and more and more as we have, more Supreme Court cases that have to do with animal agriculture and animal captivity. And I think it's really just beginning to garner a lot of attention, and we're at the forefront of that. And I feel very lucky to be part of that. And I am very happy to answer anybody's questions about my experience here, both living in Vermont and with the program. And yeah, thank you again for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophia. Yeah, I think this does seem like a good spot to move into the question section. That sort of let's see. I can try and group them as best I can and sort of field them to all of you. So one question I will answer is we'll be sending out a recording of tonight's webinar, and if anyone is looking, to get specific slide information or any of the info that was provided about courses, we'll be happy to send that out as well. It looks like there's some questions about courses we could move on to. Are the animal law courses available to LLMs? Absolutely. Yeah, if either Delcy, I don't know if you want to sort of talk about sort of the broad availability of these specialized courses.
Yeah, of course. So as I said a few times, we've created this specifically tailored curriculum for the master's program, but you do have the option to take law classes. And the flip side is true for JD and LLM students. They have the law classes, but they have the option to take these policy classes, and those will count fully towards the degree. So yes, these are open to you if you are pursuing an LLM. And deadline for our LLM fellowship is this Thursday.
Good shout out. Perfect. And then a question about really the modality of the program. Can you complete it completely remotely, completely online? Absolutely.
Yeah, you could certainly take the entire program online. There's also a really cool option, which is to take most of the program online and then spend some time with us over the summer in South Royalton. which is just a really cool experience to experience our community, and have some of that in-person, relationships building in our community. But that said, it really is up to you how you pursue it and what best fits your lifestyle, your career, your family, and all of that.
And I'll just second, Vermont is stunningly gorgeous in the summer. It's gorgeous all of the time, but summer is really special. And you could take a course that's as short as 3 or 4 days to courses that are as long as 3 weeks, and you could pack a full summer through the various summer sessions, but there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how much time you spend here, if you want to spend any time at all here.
That's let's see. Yeah, there's lots of good questions, and let's see. Let's do Taylor's asked a question about, are there supports for compassion fatigue, burnout, and self-care with such an emotional field? Delcy, I think this is a good question for you.
Yes, that's a great question. And it's like probably the number one question I get from students. And I cover it at the beginning of all of my classes. In some classes, we actually do specific readings and we'll dedicate a day to talking about this issue. But regardless, I always have specific resources that I recommend and make available to students. And I am also, of course, happy to talk with you about navigating those issues, because it's a really important thing. If you want to do this work for the long haul, you need to figure out your way of dealing with that. And we need you not to burn out so that you can be working for the animals for as long as possible. And part of it really is very personal. It depends on how you personally deal with trauma and what works for you. So for me, going to sanctuary, seeing animals is a good reminder of why I'm doing this work. But there are also things you can do, like doing some really small victory things that can be really rewarding and empowering and reinvigorating. But yes, we have a number of ways that we address that very important topic.
I'll also add on to that question that part of the clinic that I am part of, the first readings that we had and the first panel of professors that we talked to, or that talked to us rather, it was specifically about burnout and how do you avoid burnout when you're faced with these issues that seem so huge all the time for your whole life. And the school really does try to give you the tools. And the other thing I appreciate is that the professors are in the same boat as you. They also, are trying to get ahead of burnout and know what it's like to feel burnt out. And so I think that there's a great opportunity for collaboration and connection when you're talking about these issues with professors. And just like a small example is in one of my classes, my professor is like, if you have to doodle or I crochet or, anything you need to do, just to sort of, not feel like you're overwhelmed by these huge issues, feel free to do it. So it's small examples of the professors really caring because they're truly in the same boat as you.
Thanks, Sophia. This looks like a good question for you. A question about what student organizations you're part of.
Yeah, so I am part of VLGS Alliance, which is the queer student organization on campus. I'm also a part of the Jewish Law Students Association and the Animal Law Students Association is a big one. And I find those organizations really rewarding. They'll do you know, they're a combination of hosting great speakers where you can connect based on interests, identities, and also just doing game nights or just little things to help you out. Alliance does study sessions where you can just go and study with a group of people to keep you on top of your work, keep you honest. And so I think that one really special thing about being in Vermont, if you do choose to come to Vermont, is that everyone just is trying to host fun things all the time. And there's every single night, I'm sure you can find something that an organization or the school itself is putting on to sort of make your week a little brighter and help get you through.
Thanks. Sophia, are there any projects that you're working on right now that you're excited about that you might want to give us sneak peek sort of info?
Yeah,
You're
I don't
allowed
know.
to talk about.
That I'm allowed to talk about. Yeah, so that changes. But the nature of the clinic is a little hush hush. But for Professor Winder's class, I'm actually working on the way that she's structured the class is we have this overarching project where our assignments can be tailored to an interest, a policy, a particular policy interest that we have. So I've chosen to look at the possibility of introducing a premature cow-calf separation ban in the state of California. So what that means is usually to get dairy milk on industrial farms, they separate the mother cow and her calf within usually 24 hours. If you're lucky, 4 days after birth. This causes a lot of welfare issues for the animals as well as safety issues for the workers. And so, and California has been a leading state in animal welfare changes. And so I have had the opportunity to basically gear this class that I'm taking with, 15 other students to one specific issue that I'm really interested in. So again, it's sort of this best of both worlds situation where I can really focus in on this niche issue, but also work with a bunch of students that also have these niche interests and apply what we're learning in the class more broadly to something that feels tangible and also like a great skill that I can carry through to my career. I mean, that's why I went to get my master's is I wanted career skills and that's what I'm getting and it's great.
Awesome. Okay, can I ask you another question
Yeah.
about your favorite course so far?
Favorite course so far. Um I have to say, I'm sorry, Professor Winders. Law of Animals and Agriculture. I'm particularly interested, and I'm sorry, Professor Brommer. All these wonderful professors I've taken classes with, whose classes I've loved. But I'm really passionate about animals and agriculture. And in this class, Law of Animals and Agriculture, it is a law course, but it feels very accessible for of me as a policy student, and I can apply my policy lens to everything that we're talking about and all the readings that we do and assignments, and that's encouraged by my professor. And yeah, the class is really, really interesting. We sort of look at a agricultural issue every week, maybe every 2 weeks we shift. So we're currently looking at foie gras bans. We've looked at excuse me, egg laying hens and veal production practices. We've looked at horse slaughter, which has been interesting. And you can kind of, one of my favorite parts about that course that tailors so much to the policy work that I'm interested in is we've looked at voter initiatives and ballot propositions. And that's where policy work really comes in because you need a lot of boots on the ground to garner attention for these issues in states. Like that's how things like Prop 2 passed and Prop 12 in California, which changed the egg laying industry all over America. And that was due to, yes, it was due to lawyers, but it was also due to policy advocates on the ground, making these amazing changes. So I've loved that class.
Excellent. Let's see, we've got some more questions about our non-traditional students. I think I don't know if Delcy or Dan, if you either of you want to sort of talk about what our student body looks like across our programs in terms of maybe on campus, online, that
Sure.
hybrid combination that's an
Yeah.
option as well.
So most of our online master students are somewhere in that mid-career professional range, right? Most of them are working and balancing class. So the programs are designed with that in mind. And if a student is, able to take a heavier course load because they're not working, then they might be able to take two classes at once, let's say. But it's primarily recommended that students go through the program with one class at a time. Our terms are set up, they're e-terms essentially, right? So you have a 7-week term, and that splits a traditional semester in half. So for example, you'd have a fall term 1 that starts in August and ends in October, and then fall term 2 would start up in October and end in December during the traditional end of a semester. So it really is built with, folks that are working full time, trying to balance both families and careers, with the program. And that said, if you're able to ramp up, then you ramp up, and you're able to take more classes.
Thank you. Yeah, I think one of the beauty of our programs is that there are students coming into the programs with all different types of backgrounds. Sophia is describing how sort of the interests are varying among our master's students, and their focus is in a particular area, but they're coming with a variety of different backgrounds, maybe social work, and they're shifting, and so that's kind of, I think, such a cool environment to be in class with individuals that share your passion, but maybe are looking at it from a different lens or from a different perspective, and how rich our conversations and discussions are on these topics, because just the diversity of who's all working toward the same mission. And like another question. This one's about sort of how that interaction with a JD, doing a joint degree. So doing one of our master's degrees in addition to the JD program.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. So, as I've said too many times now, this program was created to be freestanding from a law degree. That said, it can be done in tandem with a law degree if that's something that you're interested in. And we have a number of students who are doing that. So you would pursue the JD and the master's degree at the same time. You can do both of those programs are online and with residential options, because we have an online hybrid JD track with a focus in animal law. And typically the way it works is that you would do your core first year law classes your first year, and then your first summer is when you would start doing your master's classes and getting more focused on the specific subject matter. And that could be in person or online. And then on your second summer, you would also do more of that master's coursework. And you can do some of it during your second and third years of law school as well. But the summer is generally a time when people focus on the master's courses. But you can do that on a different timeline as well. You don't have to do it over the traditional 3-year period.
Thank you. Delcy, is there a particular sort of top of mind project that you are excited about that you want to share any details that you're allowed to, or just talk about sort of the encouraging movement you're seeing in maybe an area?
Yeah, there's so much. Like, really, if you look at the news, there's something new in animal protection every single day. There's also a new scientific study telling us how amazing some species is that we didn't know because we weren't smart enough to pay attention before. But I'll share a couple things. So one thing that I recently was involved in is there's a sanctuary here in Vermont. Sorry about my dog. Vine Sanctuary, and they, among many other wonderful things, have developed a protocol for rehabilitating cockfighting roosters. So the traditional assumption is that roosters seeds from cockfighting must be euthanized, whereas with dogs, we tend to try to place them in homes if possible. And so they're trying to shift the thinking around that. And they've published peer-reviewed studies about this. They've trained other sanctuaries. And the head of environmental crimes for the Department of Justice teaches in our summer program. And so I was sitting next to her at a dinner one night, and she works on cockfighting cases. And so I asked her about what they do. They euthanize the roosters. And I mentioned this program that Vine has. I put them in touch, and I think nothing more of it until I get a frantic call from Vine one morning. They're planning to take in a bunch of roosters who were seized by the Department of Justice, and the Department of Ag here in Vermont isn't going to let them in because they didn't have a specific test. So I won't get into the nitty-gritty details, but we were able to navigate things such that those roosters are now living at Vine. And some of them I think are already rehabbed. Some of them it will take longer. And then something I'm currently working on is what I'm calling, and I've worked on this with a master's student extensively, canned photography. So these are stock photo images of apparently wild animals, wolves, bears, cougars, that are used very widely on calendars, fundraising appeals, advertising, really all over the place. And these photos are actually taken at shoddy roadside facilities with horrific records of animal neglect and abuse. And there are 3 key players in that space. And so we're publishing a report about this with specific recommendations, primarily aimed at the stock photo industry, because they're not making it possible for people to make responsible decisions around this. They're not indicating the source of the photos, whether they're even captive at all. They're not being selective in which photos they sell. So that's a couple things, but I could go on and on.
Wow, I didn't even think about the regulation need there, but clearly there's a call to that. And that's amazing that you are getting to work with students on that right now. Wow, amazing. With the prospective students in mind, Delcy, Sophia, do you guys have any pieces of advice you want to share with the prospective student?
I can start. I would say, don't let anybody tell you you can't do this. If what you want to do with your life and your career is animal protection work, you absolutely can. And there's never been a better time than now. There's more funding in this space. As a result, there are more jobs. There's increasing public awareness, and I think it's only going to continue to improve. I was told, even by my mentors, that this was not a field that I could pursue. And fortunately, I found other mentors who supported me, and I've done nothing but animal protection. So, and part of what I want to do is pay that forward to the people who did help me do it. So you can do it, and we will help you find a way to do it, and tailored to whatever the particular issue that you want to focus on is.
That's so inspiring.
That was mine. Because I feel like even in the years since I've gotten interested in animal advocacy, which has been only a few, I mean, like realistically, only 6 years. I mean, I'm pretty fresh out of undergrad. The world has just kind of exploded in the opportunities that there are for animal advocacy. Another piece of advice I would give is just reach out to people. Um, I think that people in the animal movement are really excited when other people are excited about the animal movement. And people will want to help you or give you advice, or, if they can't necessarily help you, they'll put you in touch with their colleague that can. Just reach out. I mean, I know that's a pretty general networking rule of thumb, but truly in this movement, people want to make it bigger. There's no, of course, there's always some sort of competition for opportunities and jobs, but there's also so much space to grow, that everyone just wants to help. And so I think just don't be afraid to reach out to anyone. Go on LinkedIn, find the job you want, email the person. They'll probably help you. And I think that it's just a really great community to be a part of, both at the school and then in the animal protection movement generally.
And I'll add to that. I think that's completely true. And I've had numerous alumni working in the field who I've asked them, hey, can I put a student in touch with you? They're interested in something related to what you're doing. And they have said, talking to students is my favorite thing to do. Numerous people have told me that. So you'll make their day if you reach out.
It is such a tight-knit community, and yeah, like Sophia, you're saying, yeah, people are competing for funding, maybe for jobs, but the larger mission is what's is everyone's focus. So yeah, that's really good advice. Let's see. I think we've answered the questions that have come in. I've gotten to pick your brains about a lot of things that I wanted to know about, so thank you. And yeah, so I think we probably can wrap up for the night. I failed to introduce everyone to our Dean of Admissions, Katie Merrill. I didn't scroll over enough in my little gallery, so don't take it personally, Katie.
No, I was incognito. So thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And I was texting Delcy, you'll have text from me because I was like, Sophia is so awesome. And then you start talking about your stuff, and I just appreciate your awesomeness. I see where they get it from. So I appreciate it. And I appreciate your dedication to helping and saving animals. So I appreciate you all.
Thank you,
Yes,
Katie.
thanks everybody.
I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I'm sorry. I did want to say two quick things before we go. There were some questions about the LLM program. I put in the Q&A a link to the webinar we did about the LLM program. I'm also happy to field questions by email. I just didn't want to divert our attention away from the public policy masters. And also, I'm happy to answer questions more generally at all. If you have any questions about the master's program, joint degree, whatever it is, don't hesitate to reach out.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate everybody for joining us tonight, and you'll be yeah, hearing from us soon, and thanks again.